and the kids singing and throwing beads. You just can't help it. It's fun. So I'll talk a little bit today about the power of hope and hoping that we will all live in the light of hope. And if I could, I'd package up hope and give it into each and every one of you in a big package, all wrapped up and beautiful. That's what I'd do. I'd wrap that up for you. I'd give it to you. And I think I can give you the directions, maybe the ingredients that can go into creating that hope. We've all seen times where we weren't hopeful, I'm sure. We've seen others. We know what it feels like. We know what it looks like. We've had others in our lives that lost all hope, maybe even took their own lives. It's a painful thing to see. I remember as a teenager, the boy that sat in front of me in nearly every class in my freshman year, because his name was his last name, the one just before mine. And somewhere during in the winter, he took his life. And I remember how it felt to lose him, and it was terrible. It was a terrible thing. As it turned out, he was horribly abused at home. His father was an alcoholic and came home every day and beat whoever was closest. And the son, in the hope of protecting his mother, would step up. I can only imagine the despair that he felt that brought him to that place where he took his own life. And then we have a friend here that suffered from despair, desperation, depression, had all her life. And when the pandemic started, she lost all hope and took her life. And we struggle with that because we miss her. But we've all seen that. We've seen where people have lost all hope. And what we want to do, what we're talking about here today, is how to increase life, increase love, increase the light, so that our light will go out and shine for others. Maybe it'll show others, be an example to them. And they say that's what Jesus was. He came at a time when the Jews were despairing. They didn't know which way to move. They'd been under someone else's rule for so long. They didn't even know what freedom would feel like. And they say that's why the Messiah came, was to show them that there was hope and to show them how to live an independent life, even if they were in a country where someone else was ruling. There was a light within them, and they could find it. And that's actually who he was and what he came to share. There have been many doctrines that have been, and much dogma that's been created by humans about his life. But what we believe here is that he was the great example instead of the exception. And he told us that we could do what he did. And in order to do that, we need to reach a Christ consciousness. And you don't do that overnight. In order to heal the way he did, and he told us we could learn to do that. We don't learn that overnight, though, do we? We do it a little bit at a time. We've been talking about that spiritual journey here for the last few months and what it looks like. And there's a beginning, and it's always right now. Right now, we begin again. Right now, Every moment we begin again, no matter what's happened. We look at things under the surface. We look deeper at the things that have occurred to us in our lives. We decide that we're going to be open. And instead of being closed-minded, we're going to be open to new things. And in doing that, I hope you'll hear what I'm going to say about hope in a little bit different light today. It's an energy. It's not just a belief. Hope is actually an energy. It's an energy that goes out there before you, clearing the path. There is so much about the quantum power of hope that I couldn't even begin to explain. Quantum energy, I can't explain it, but I know what it feels like. And I think you do too. There's a woman, a psychologist and a researcher. Her name is Dr. Melanie Dean. I first ran across her at unity.org. I read an article that she wrote. It was called The Quantum Power of Hope and Faith. And in it, she talked about things that had happened in her life that were synchronous, and she knew there wasn't a coincidence there. There was something else behind this power that she wanted to understand, and so she did a lot of research into it. We've talked before about the power of your emotions and how if you're going from a place of despair, hopelessness, moving up a little bit maybe to anger, frustration, all of these, and those emotions range. There's we could name about 20 of them, all the way up to perhaps getting to joy. And on the way to joy, one of those emotions you're going to find is hope. Well, she did a lot of research not just her, but a lot of research into hope and what makes you feel hopeful. And as it turns out, there are some chemicals in our system, and we know that control our emotions. They're emotional molecules, oxytocin, which your body makes whenever you feel love or you feel good. It's that chemical that's roaming around in your body. Adrenaline, we know what that feels like. Your body creates when you feel danger. Oxytocin communicates safety, healthy functioning to the cells of your body. All of the cells, all of them are receiving that. While adrenaline signals alarm, all of your cells are receiving that too. So if you're living in a stressful environment, if you're living stressed, if you're living in anger, fear, worry, all of those conditions, you are doing cellular harm to your body. And that's why so many get into their 4th, 5th, and 6th, 7th decade, and they have cancer that visits them. They have a lot of other things that come, and it's from all that stress, all those chemicals roaming around in your body, heart problems, all your life that you didn't control. Now, see, earlier in some of our lives, though, we didn't know we could, okay? So in our defense, we didn't know that we could control those. But now you don't have an excuse anymore, because I'm telling you that you can. And you can heal. You can heal those heart problems, but you can quit creating them by controlling those chemicals. There's another one, orexin. It's a molecule that your body makes when you feel fear. And you know what's happening in your body when you're feeling fear? Well, for one example, that molecule weighs 3 times more than a molecule of oxytocin. So that's why you're feeling so heavy. You got a heavy feeling, okay? When you're feeling hopeless, you're feeling fearful, worried, angry, whatever. You've got those molecules running around. That's why they feel heavy. It's because they are. They're 3 times heavier than the feel-good chemicals that are roaming around in your body. And there's research to prove that. They know that this is why if you can choose a thought just a tiny bit better than the one you just had that made you feel hopeless, then you can move up that scale of emotion a little bit at a time till you can feel hope. So that's one of the keys too, is to choose another thought that will make you feel a little more hopeful. And if you can just imagine those molecules spinning around, trillions of them in your body, either making you healthy or making you unwell, and at the same time making you feel bad. So you just don't want to have those emotions of frustration, anger, worry, despair, anxiety. They all have a sharp, jagged, chaotically spaced wave pattern. They've shown it under a microscope, whereas the other molecules are smooth and calm. So that's why when you're terribly upset, you can just stop. You can take a deep breath. And you can say, I can see peace instead of this. You can change every molecule in your body. Every one. You have that power. You can. There's a healing power of hope too. And I believe I've told the story before of the woman. She's a teacher. She was assigned to go and visit a young boy in the hospital who had burns over 90% of his body. And the burns were so bad, they weren't even certain if he would survive. And she went and visited him, and she was really afraid to go in. She just didn't know how someone that was that ill would look. But she was pleasantly surprised when she got there. He was actually a cheerful little boy. And so she went every day and gave him his lessons. And so before long, the nurse contacted her and said, "What in the world have you done to this boy? He's so much more cheerful. He's happy. He's healing. And it's just like you're a miracle cure for him." And so the next time the teacher went, she said, "Well, what's going on with you? You seem happier and healthier, and you're actually getting well." And he says, "Well, I figured they wouldn't send a nurse to teach a boy math and reading if he was going to die." So what happened? He had hope. He had hope. And another thing we don't want to do, don't allow others to rob you of your hope. Do you ever go to someone and you're just so excited and you have joy and you've got this new idea, and the only thing they can do is throw darts at it? You ever had that happen? Don't allow that. I think there's another thing that Jesus said, and he would have said it in different words today. He said, do not throw your pearls before swine. And what he actually meant, of course, that was language that they understood then. They understood that. But what he actually meant was, you have some great ideas, and present them to people who will be inspired by it, and not to people who will shoot them down. Okay? So that's a way to stay hopeful too, is to be careful where you share your hopeful ideas and inspirations. And then watch your own negativity. The energy of complaining will hold you back. It is our most common way of limiting ourselves, and we forget it. When we get with our friends and we love our loved ones, is when we forget it the most. And we can think we're just venting, and that's okay. We do need to vent sometimes, we really do. But if you're a chronic complainer, you need to remind yourself, I am limiting myself here. I am holding myself back. There is no hope going out in front of me. The energy of hope is not going out in front of me as long as I'm complaining. I'm not helping myself or anybody else. Now, there's a difference in speaking up and saying what's real. We all know that, and when we're in meetings, and maybe we vent for a little bit, and then we get down to business, and if we're all discerning from our higher place, we'll be able to make comments and speak with wisdom and discernment rather than simply complaining. With complaining, there's no spiritual solution. You're just dumping a whole lot of bad energy on yourself and everybody else that's within your wavelength. And that's the other thing about the energy of hope. This researcher that I spoke of a few minutes ago, she said that it factors in the quantum energy to everything. Everything is connected. And you know how it feels when you go in a room where everybody's gloomy and it feels dark. You want to get out of there as fast as you can, don't you? Versus going into a place where it's all light and everybody's positive and, oh boy, I could feel more of that. And that's actually an energy that you're feeling there. And so hope has an energy too, and when you put that out in front of you, just like expectation, put that expectation out there in front of you and let it bring you to your goal, where you want to go. Then there's the to raise your frequency. You allow the energy of hope to infuse you, to move into every cell of your body, just like those chemicals we were talking about a few minutes ago. Allow hope. And if you're feeling despair, stop yourself right in the middle of it. Say, I could see something just a little better than this. Crank it up and choose just a little bit better thought on this. For instance, you may have a problem there's not a spiritual solution in sight. As a matter of fact, all you see is how this has worked in the past, and you've never had a solution come about. This happens so much, and I know I've talked about it a lot lately when we're making decisions for our elders, and all of a sudden we find ourselves with all types of responsibility and zero authority, and it feels terrible. And maybe with our siblings, we've looked at this solution, we've looked at that solution, we've looked at every solution under the sun, and it looks hopeless. That's when you need to rethink, go back to the creative source and say, God, I know it looks like this is hopeless right now, but I just pray for a little light on this situation. Just a little glimmer of light in this situation. I'm willing and hopeful instead of despairing. And I know that there is a spiritual solution to this problem. Don't allow others to rain on your parade. I read a story of the spiritual teacher, Alan Cohan, a few years ago, and his teacher that he first went to and mentor was a woman, Charla Horton, I believe her name was, and she was in New York. And they would have regular healing sessions because it turned out that people that attended her healing sessions, many of them were cured. So they'd been holding a healing session for a woman that had a lot of medical problems, and they'd been holding this space, and they really were feeling the healing taking place. And then as they prayed and they came back to the room and the consciousness of the room around them, there was one man that thought he was going to be extremely helpful and came up to the woman that was receiving the healing, started suggesting to her some naturopath and would she consider this herb and that herb and the other. And the healer, Miss Charla, pretty much chewed him out. She said, "How dare you interfere with a sacred process that has already taken place and a healing that has already begun, and that healing energy is healing her body right now, and you would come back and fill her with doubt. How dare you?" Makes you think, doesn't it? How many times we've been in prayer, we've prayed for the perfect solution, and on the way out, somebody will give you some other practical solution. So don't do that, and don't do it to others. If they're praying for a healing to take place, they've asked God in, and God is there, and God is healing them. Don't you dare interfere with some suggestion. The suggestion they need will come to them, and it will know their face. And that's what I'm saying when it comes to hope. Allow it to grow. Allow healing to come. And don't be one to tend to always look for something outside when the healing power is right within you. Right where you are. Right in that miraculous body of yours where the cells are working every single moment to heal you. Every moment. Would you go to the next slide? Okay, thank you. I don't have the clicker today. This from Charles Fillmore. Words are also seeds, and when dropped into the invisible spiritual substance, they grow and bring forth after their kind. Use affirmations. Use powerful ones. I am healed. I am joyful. I have the solution to every problem that comes up in my life. I claim that now. I hope you will too. Thank you for your time.